Okay, so how's everybody doing? So this short series is going to be on how I build this extractor for the brewery. Like, this will finish up the brewery flat scene and that end of the layout. I just feel this is a really important feature to put in. Like, none of this was actually planned originally, but that's for another story. But what I want to do is I just want to talk about the space first and just clear up a few questions, like, or, you know, comments that were made, you know, in all fairness, you know, because, like, unless people really know the full story, what's going on, then you'll understand, you know, the space restriction that we all face when we build a model railroad of our dreams or imagination. You know, part of the problem with this brewery was, or I wouldn't say really problem was, is it was never really planned to be in this layout to begin with, right? Because when I first fought for space, like, nobody knows about that, like, in this room, like, to get this bedroom devoted, because it is a shared space, you know, especially when you're retired or semi-retired and you live in a small home, right? It's just, you know, we don't have the luxury of big basements and things, but you know, I had to fight for every piece of real estate, like every square inch, to get this plan. I had built a maquette model, as some of you know, and, you know, I wanted to get the footprint down. I wanted to say, okay, this is the space before any of this was built. And I only originally had up to section 2 here, the end right here. But I fought and fought. This is storage right now just for all my paints and stuff, but this is the section 3, right? See? That's for my expansion. So I managed to get that in writing. You know, so, and then, you know, like, here it is. Like, this is where I'm at right now. And obviously I'm working on section A because I want to get that feature scene done. But when I initially planned it, I hadn't even decided on the barge slip. You know, like, I never was sure. Like, I had ideas, but I had sort of put it out there and people had sort of voted, oh, I'd do the barge slip, right? So I did. I culminated that and built the barge slip, like, right away, like, at first, right? And, like, I hadn't planned for this. Like, I never planned for the brewery. Like in reality, the brewery here prototypically is way past this reef right here, like this way. It wouldn't have even been in this model prototypically. In fact, right up to this point right here would have been this one super long warehouse. All right, I can show you a pic of that if you'd like. Okay, so compression, right? So I wanted to capture the brewery because it is had such a nice visual interest that I knew would work well on this corner, like in this sort of wine glass shape that I really wanted for the room, because it's such an easy way to view the model and enter into the scene. It was part of the design. But I didn't know that, you know, like, I had added space. Like, this was the rectangular line right here. So I added this curved piece in my planning because I knew I was going to be fighting for space with the barge slip, because I was dealing with the length that I had to compress as well, like in 10 feet, right? Plus the door, I've never shown this, but the door has to open, watch. See here? See there? There's the upper valance. There's the fascia. Right? Making the space work. But I knew what I wanted to put in here was the barge slip. However, this brewery I started to look at because I thought this really has a lot of nice visual interest. So I want to compress it into this scene as a background piece. But then I was fighting for space right here because you can see with the barge slip, there's not much of water in there. So see, an inch to the right or the left is huge on a model railroad like this. Like, it's way bigger than you realize, right? So if I move this whole layout over 1 inch, because the benchwork's established, then this ends up being like this, right? And that's not going to happen. I declare that anathema. any track or building like that in this particular situation, like it's not going to happen like that. Like it never will, and that's the end of that, right? So then I was dealing with, okay, so I wanted this shoreline. I wanted, like, this was important to me because it really, when you walk in, makes a statement that it's a river. And then I realized, okay, so I want the brewery, but how am I going to fit in the siding and the right of way? And I need the right of way as a switch lead to service the warehouse further down where those box cars are, which is actually out of service as well, but I'm putting it in service. So I've made a compromise there, but I did here in terms of location, but not in terms of reality because it is out of service. So now you see I'm not only short like half an, well, like I'd say an inch or two here, like to fit that in properly. Like I can't change that now. Like I can't, I'm not going to take this back, like this brewery out, and it's already down to half inch here, right? And then there's my backdrop. So that you can't push this back, and I'm not running a flat sheet against the backdrop because everything's on an angle, on a slight angle, right? And so now I have to deal with that. So I got to fit the extractor in here, which will have to be compressed again. And my point is that, nothing here is built to exact blueprint scale. Nothing. I mean, even HO scale track right here, like we call it HO scale, but it isn't really, right? Like that's 5 feet, isn't it? This is 5 feet wide if you put a HO scale ruler on it. But in reality, the prototype rail spacing here is 4'8.5". So, we can strain a gnat and then swallow a camel in this game, can't we? So, like in a perfect world from the armchair designer, perspective, which we all do, I've done it. Oh, why didn't they do this? Or why, I would have done that. Would you? Let's see it. Right? So, this scene is what it is. So I'm going to have to deal with it. This is going to be overgrown here. There's going to be long grass in here and piles of ties and rail along here. And it's just going to get cheated because it's going to be it's going to be used a lot. This particular main line here, like in terms of the short line branch main, is going to be used to switch out that warehouse down there. It leads to the runaround, and where these cars are, this is where a lot of the traffic that comes in on the barge or ferry gets classified right here. Just like the prototype. Like this is all prototypical here too. This turnout halfway onto the barge. So that was a lot of work to do that. I can show you about that too if you'd like. Anyway, so that's what I'm dealing with. So I put the 3 buildings in, and then this center building is heavily compressed this way, right? So that's why I did that, right? And so now it's this space here. I got to squeeze the hops bit extractor to fit in here to accommodate this track here, right? So I'm not sure how I'm going to do that exactly because the legs would probably come out to here. So I can either sort of modify it and cantilever it a bit so the train clears here. I'm not really sure. If I ran it right over top, it wouldn't seem right either. But anyway, that's what I'm dealing with. So.